The Constitution of India, Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution.
Hi all, how are you? How did you celebrate your Onam? You might have celebrated very pompously, right children? I hope so, because in this lockdown time, we have unlocked all the positives and we have locked negatives. Don't you think like that children? For example, as we have unlocked our positives, don't you think we have created a good relation with our family members, a good relation with the nature, as well as we have developed our skills or talents. You might have seen so many children have started their YouTube channel, right? So in that YouTube channel, they are exhibiting their talents. So let all the children's YouTube channel get flourished and established, and may God bless you all. Today I am here with a new topic, a poem written by William Wordsworth, and it is named as or titled as Lines Written in Early Spring. As I told you, this poem is written by William Wordsworth. You know that William Wordsworth is said to be the nature poet. Also, he is also known as the romantic poet. What does it mean by romantic poet? Does he write about romance? No. Romantic poets are the poets who write on the element imagination. That is, imagination of people, things and attributes. In 1798, William Wordsworth and his friend Taylor Coleridge wrote a collection of poems which is named as Lyrical Ballad. This collection of poems is a turning point in their work as well as in their life. It is also said to be a turning point in the literary world. During French Revolution, he has written this poem, Lines Written in Early Spring. And in this poem, you can see that how he has described the nature and what man has done to the nature and how the nature has reacted. Everything it is given clearly in this poem. He likes to lead a calm and peaceful life. Okay, but this poem you have seen it is written at the time of French Revolution. So how the countryside will be, or how the people of that country will be reacting to the nature during French Revolution. So this all you should bring it to the mind, how the action of the people might have affected the nature. He is very simple. William Wordsworth used to write in very simple language. He usually writes about the rustic life. Rustic life means the life prevailing in that country. Okay, the common people's life. And he is also a simple person. So his poem is very easy to understand. Now let's see what's there in the poem. Now children, open your textbook and just listen to the audio of the poem.
Lines Written in Early Spring by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org by Kristen Hughes. I heard 1,000 blended notes, while in a grove I sat reclined, in that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. To her fair works did nature link the human soul that through me ran, and much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. Through primrose tufts in that green bower the periwinkle trailed its wreaths, and 'tis my faith that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. The birds around me hopped and played, their thoughts I cannot measure, but the least motion which they made it seemed a thrill of pleasure. The budding twigs spread out their fan to catch the breezy air, and I must think, do all I can, that there was pleasure there. If this belief from heaven be sent, if such be nature's holy plan, have I not reason to lament what man has made of man?
Okay, as it is a simple poem, what did you understand? Yes, you might have understood that it is about nature and what man has made of man. Right, children? Okay, now let's see in detail. The first stanza, I heard 1,000 blended notes while in a grove I sat reclined in that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. I heard 1,000 blended notes. Blended notes means it's a mixed musical notes, because in the nature you can see there are variety of birds, animals, etc. So these leaves, trees, all those things, how they make sound, that is a mixed notes here. Okay, so he was listening and enjoying the nature by hearing the mixed musical notes. And what happened? While in a grove I sat reclined. He was sitting in a grove. Grove means a group of trees. Okay, group of trees are said to be grove. So he was sitting under a tree and listening and enjoying to the music of the nature. Recline means sitting very relaxed. Okay, so he was sitting like that, and in that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. He was having very pleasant, very happy thoughts by listening to the music of the nature. But these pleasant thoughts brought to his mind bad thoughts. It's not that he is expecting or he is inviting that bad thoughts. The pleasant thoughts which came in his mind brought to him bad thoughts also. Okay, bad or sad thoughts. The pleasant thoughts which he had by listening to the music of the nature brought sad thoughts to his mind. Okay, that is what he is saying in the first stanza. I heard 1,000 blended notes while in a grove I sat reclined in that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. Got it, children? Now here you have to learn how to find out the rhyme scheme. Okay, you have to pronounce it as a rhyme scheme, not a rhyming scheme. That is a wrong usage. Okay, it is rhyme scheme. Now you can see here, I have written the last words of all the lines in order. Okay, the first line, last word is notes. Second line, last word is reclined. Third line, last word is thoughts. And the fourth line, last word is mind. Now let's see how to find out the rhyme scheme. So here you can see this first line, last word is notes. So what is the sound coming there? The ending sound is s sound, right? So we will give here A. Okay. Now the second word is reclined. Does it matches with the s sound in the first line? No. Here the sound is d. Reclined means the sound is d. So here we will give it as B. Okay, children. Now the third word is thoughts. So this sound, the s sound, matches with the first line. That is the notes, isn't it? Notes, thoughts. So here you can write again the same letter A. Okay, in the first line we have written A, and this sound matches with the third word or third line, sir, thoughts, right? So you can write here A. Now let's see the fourth line, mind. So that is not sir sound, it's again D sound, right children? So here you can write B. Okay, now first line matches with the third line and second line matches with the fourth line with the sound. Okay, rhyming sound or rhyme scheme. Okay, so here we will write notes, that is A, reclined B, thoughts A, mind B. I hope you understood. And so the rhyme scheme of this poem is A, B, A, B. It's the rhyme scheme. Okay, rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B. Now like this you have to find out in all the lines, right? So from the first stanza you understood that the poet was sitting very relaxed, he was reclining or he was seated relaxed against a tree and he was listening to the blended notes of the nature or mixed notes of the breeze, and at that time he was very happy, very pleasant, but this pleasant feeling brought to him sad thoughts. Okay, that is what you saw in the first stanza. Now let's move on to the second stanza. To her fair works did nature link the human soul that through me ran, and much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. So here nature is always giving us fair works, good works. Okay, what we people are doing to nature? That's the question asked by the poet. Okay, to her fair works did nature link the human soul. Human soul is always linked with the nature's soul. That is, always nature is giving us happiness. But what we are giving back to the nature, or what we are giving back to the human, the same category, people. Okay, what we are giving to them. By thinking of that, the poet became very sad. Now the poet grieved. Grieved means to become sad. Okay, so here to her fair works did nature link the human soul that through me ran, and much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. What man has done to man. By thinking of that, my soul or my heart ached. Okay, so he is very sad, very much grieved on what man has done to man. At the same time, the nature always, without nature, people cannot exist, right? So, when the nature is giving us happiness, when the nature's works are very fair works which are given to us, why does man do such things to man? That's the question asked by William Wordsworth. Now let's move on to the third stanza. Through primrose tufts in that green bower, the periwinkle trained its wreaths, and 'tis my faith that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. Through primrose tufts. Primrose is a beautiful flower, and tufts means it is the bunch of flowers. Okay, here the poet is describing about the beautiful framework of climbers. Primrose as well as periwinkle are climbers. Okay, in the place of or where the primrose bunches are growing, in that green bower, there who is also making a wreath, that is periwinkle. Periwinkle trailed its wreaths. Periwinkle is also growing with the primrose. Okay, but here they are not fighting, they are not complaining, they are not getting suffocation. Instead, they enjoy the air it breathes. Enjoy the air it breathes means what? They are together. Actually, this periwinkle is a wild poisonous flower. Periwinkle is a white poisonous flower, and primrose is a beautiful flower. So both are of different stuff, right children? But they grow together and they enjoy the air it's breathe. Okay, both are enjoying the air. They are not trying to destroy each other, or they are not trying to harm each other. Instead, they grow together, they live together, and they enjoy the air it breathes. Okay, if something happens to human in the same way, if somebody is not allowed to come near us, what will happen? Do we tolerate them? Do we allow them to live with us? Never. We will try to destroy them, or we will try to drive them out, right? But here, periwinkle is a poisonous flower and primrose is a beautiful, pleasant flower. Two kinds of climbers. See, here it is said periwinkle has made a wreath, means it is growing above the primrose. But that doesn't make any difference. Here in this stanza, the poet is trying to say that the flowers as well as the plants coexist peacefully, and they find enjoyment or happiness to live together. Okay, now next stanza. The birds around me hoped and played, their thoughts I cannot measure, but the least motion which they made, it seemed a thrill of pleasure. The birds around me hoped and played. Hoped means they are jumping and playing. The birds are jumping and playing. Their thoughts I cannot measure. He cannot measure the thoughts of the birds. Why they are this much happy? Why they are enjoying this much? He cannot measure the thoughts which the birds have in them. But the least motion which they made, it seemed a thrill of pleasure. What is the reason for the thrill of pleasure in them? The poet cannot identify it, but he knows that the birds are very happy, very thrilled, and they are enjoying in the nature. But the least motion which they made, means the small movement which the birds are making, makes me know that they are very much happy to play and enjoy in the nature. Okay. Now next one, the budding twigs spread out their fan to catch the breezy air, and I must think, do all I can, that there was pleasure there. The budding twigs. Budding means the twigs, the small twigs which are beginning to grow or beginning to develop. They are spreading out their fan. Fan here means it is the leaves of the budding twigs to catch the breezy air. These leaves are trying to catch the air, the fresh air, the pleasant air. That's why they are trying to develop. Okay, they are trying to develop. The budding twigs spread out their fan. Spread out their fan means their leaves to catch the air. And I must think, do all I can, that there was pleasure there. So Wordsworth is thinking that he should be sure that there was pleasure, there was happiness in the nature. Okay, God has given us such a beautiful heaven or such a beautiful earth, and all should be happy. But why man is not happy at all time? Okay, other things which you see in the nature are always happy. They are enjoying the nature. They are blended with the nature. But what man is doing to the nature, man is always trying to get everything from the nature. It is not, or man is not trying to give or help the nature to flourish, isn't it? Instead, we people are selfish. that we always try to get from the nature for our benefit. Now the last answer, if this belief from heaven be sent, if such be nature's holy plan, have I not reason to lament what man has made of man? If this belief from heaven be sent, actually earth is the only planet where we can see life, right? So such a beautiful heaven God has given to us. Then if such be nature's holy plan, if this is the nature's holy plan or blessings for the people, why should I not lament? Lament means regret or miss or feel sad. Why should I not feel sad about what man has made of man? William Wordsworth is feeling very sad, very grieved by listening or by hearing or by seeing the things what man has made of man, what man is doing to the other fellow being or to the nature. He is asking to himself, have I not reason to lament? Have I not have reason to lament? Don't I have a reason to grieve, or don't I have a reason to become sad when I see my fellow being has done something to man? Okay, so that is about the poem. Now I'll read the poem from the beginning. Just look into your textbook and listen to what I am reading. I heard 1,000 blended notes while in grove I sat reclined in that sweet mood when pleasant thoughts bring sad thoughts to the mind. To her fair works did nature link the human soul that through me ran, and much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. Through primrose tufts in that green bower, the periwinkle trailed its wreaths, and this my faith that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. The birds around me hoped and played, their thoughts I cannot measure, but the least motion which they made, it seemed a thrill of pleasure. The budding twigs spread out their fan to catch the breezy air, and I must think, do all I can, that there was pleasure there. If this belief from heaven be sent, if such be nature's holy plan, have I not reason to lament what man has made of man? That's a question mark, okay? What man has made of man. Have I not have a reason, or don't I have the reason to lament? Lament means to feel regret or to feel sad or to feel grieved about thinking about what man has made of man. Okay, when nature is having such a holy plan, such a pleasant thoughts, okay, which the nature has given to man, but instead man is doing, what is man doing to the nature? People are trying to destroy the nature. So, don't you think, children, Wordsworth is trying to say one more or trying to convey one more message here. Always we too lament on what we don't have. So why don't we find pleasure or happiness on the things that God had gifted to us? For example, we always cry or we always feel sad thinking of our drawbacks, right? So instead of that, see, God has given you a healthy physique, a healthy body, a good family. So why don't we feel happy on that? Why should we feel sad on what we don't have? Right, this is also a message which William Wordsworth is trying to give through this poem. Okay, so be happy always and try to find happiness in the small things which you have, which you are gifted with. Okay, and try to develop your skills. Don't get frustrated for what you don't have. That is the main sadness of people in this world nowadays. So here William Wordsworth has written a beautiful poem in which he tries to convey that be thankful and be happy for what you have, and don't lament on the things or the materials which you don't have. Okay, work hard, do a disciplined work so that you can achieve success in your life. Okay, he is trying to teach us through nature. Okay, try to blend with all circumstances and try to find happiness in the small things which you have. Right? Now let's see the question answers. Okay. Now the first question is, what does the expression I sat reclined indicate about the poet's state of mind? So you can see the answer in the first answer. He is saying that it shows, or the poet's state of mind here is that he is very relaxed, he is very calm and pleasant, and he is reclining on, he is sitting there reclined or lie flat. Recline means to lie flat. So he is enjoying the nature, his mind is very calm, pleasant and also relaxed. He is happy at that time to enjoy the nature's music. Now next one, why does the poet feel sad while reclining in the grove? What is the answer? Yes, the answer is that while he was enjoying the nature's music, while he was feeling very relaxed, calm and pleasant, these thoughts brought to his mind some sad thoughts by thinking the disharmony of the people towards the nature, or disharmony of the people with the nature. When these thoughts came to his mind, he felt very sad. Now next one, how does a poet associate himself with nature? How does he associate himself with the nature? By saying about the soul, nature's soul. You can see in the second stanza, to her fair works did nature link the human soul. So nature is trying to link her with the human soul. Like that, the poet is trying to associate himself with the nature. And much it grieved my heart to think what man has made of man. What do these lines convey? These lines conveys that the poet is feeling, William Wordsworth is feeling very sad on thinking the disharmony of the people towards nature, as well as what man is doing to their fellow being. Thinking of this, the poet's heart gets worried, or he is becoming very sad. What makes a poet think that every flower enjoys its existence? That you can see in the third stanza, but with the example of primrose and periwinkle. Primrose, I told you, it's a beautiful pleasant flower, and periwinkle is a poisonous flower. So these two combinations, they are happy to live together, and this makes a poet think that every flower enjoys its existence. They are not trying to destroy each other, but they are living together happily. So this makes the poet say that, or think that every flower enjoys its existence. Now what is nature's holy plan? How does man work against it? Nature's holy plan is to give heaven to us. This earth is a heaven for us, isn't it? We get always, nature is planning to give us pleasant things to make man happy. But we human beings are trying to grab everything from the nature, but we are not trying to protect nature, or we are not trying to make the nature happy. Instead, we have a selfish thought and we are trying to grab everything from the nature. Suggest an alternative title for the poem. That, by understanding the poem, I hope you can suggest and you can write in your file If I say some title, you are going to write the same thing in your file. So I want you to read the poem, understand the feeling of the poet, and make a suitable, beautiful title. Now in page number 32, you can see some literary devices. Okay, the first one is personification. Now what is personification? Personification means giving life to the non-living things or to the inanimate objects. Okay, so can you find any lines in the poem which shows personification? For example, I'll give you 3 lines. The first one is, to her fair works did nature link. To her fair works did nature link. Here nature is considered to be a human being. So what is the line there? And this my faith that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. Here flower is considered to be a human being, and it is said that every flower enjoys the air it breathes. Okay, human beings breathe air the same way. Here flowers are considered. It is a strong belief or the faith of the poet that the flowers are breathing the air and it is enjoying. Okay, so that lines enjoys the air it breathes becomes a personification. Here flowers are considered to be are given life. Flowers are given life. The budding twigs spread out their fan. The budding twigs spread out their fan is again a personification where the budding twigs are given life. Okay, and it is doing an action, that is spreading out its fans. Right? So that's about personification. Now next one is imagery. What is imagery? Imagery gives more beauty to the poem, and we understand this imagery with our sense organs. For example, how many sense organs do we have? 5. So we have 5 imageries. For example, the first one can be taken as visual image. When we see something or when we read the lines of the poem and we get a visual image in front of us, that is visual image. When we can see something or when we can imagine something by seeing it, it becomes visual image. And the next one is auditory image. Auditory means audio, auditory. What is the meaning? We have to hear it. So auditory image is there. The next one is tactile image. What is tactile image? Tactile image means that we touch and understand the effect. Okay, when we touch and understand something, then it is, see, if the coffee is very hot, how will we understand? When we go and touch it, right? And how do we understand this cold and hot and various climatic condition? With the touch or with the feelings which we get, isn't it? So that is tactile image. Then the gustatory image, and olfactory image. Okay, gustatory is how we understand or how we know the gustatory image by tasting. Okay, by tasting something we will understand. But if you taste some dishes, you will understand whether it is salty or whether it is sweet. So like that we understand the gustatory image. And olfactory image is the last one, which we understand through smell. When 2 cups of drinks are kept, okay, so how do you understand whether it is tea or whether it is coffee? We can understand through smell. So that is olfactory image, right? Okay, next is alliteration. Now what is alliteration? Alliteration is the repeated consonant sounds in the beginning of the line. Repeated consonant sounds in the beginning of the line. For example, I've written here one line, man has made of man. Here you can see this m sound is repeating in the beginning. Man has made of man. So this is an example for alliteration, because man, made, and again man. So you can give such examples. The beginning sound, consonant sound which repeats in a line. In a line, it should not be like rhyming words in different lines. In the same line, it should repeat. The same sound, consonant sound should repeat. That is alliteration. Okay. Now next one is rhyme scheme that I have already explained to you. Okay, so this part you have to complete in your textbook, right? So I hope you enjoyed this poem, and this literary devices usually makes the poem more beautiful. In this Wordsworth's poems you can see more literary devices always, and his poems are always beautiful to understand and very simple to understand, right children? So complete your file and do your homeworks. In your textbook activities also you have to do, and with that I conclude the session. See you in the next class. Bye.